1980, Flower City, Oaxaca. An 8-year-old girl vanishes right from her own yard, leaving only a pink ribbon on the grass. No one heard a cry for help. No one was arrested. The case was closed. But 27 years later, deep in the dark forest, a white plastic figure filled with real bones was dug up, and that ribbon reappeared. Have you ever wondered if sometimes a kidnapper doesn't just want to hide a body, but also wants to keep a pose or arrangement going? Monday, June 18, 2007. The dark forest, an area that's been empty since the early 1980s. A group of workers from the Wind Turbine Testing Company, WTTC, were clearing trees and digging up the ground to get ready to build a test wind turbine tower. The trees grew close together. The weeds were almost up to their hips. They used big bulldozers to remove the top layer of soil. The sun was high in the sky, but the light couldn't fully reach through the thick forest canopy. Arturo Jimenez, 24 years old, was the bulldozer operator leading the way. He had moved only a few feet when he heard a slight crack, different from the sound of a rock. Arturo stopped the machine immediately. He jumped out and went to look. In the ground, under the dug-up dirt, something was sticking out, a pale white color, like hard plastic. Arturo shouted, "Hey, Luis, come take a look at this." Luis, the foreman of the group, along with 3 other people, ran over. They all stood around the hole looking at the strange object. In the hole, there was a shape that looked like a human, about 5 feet 7 inches, 1.7 meters, long, lying on its side, covered in dirt. The figure didn't have any arms. Its neck was wrapped in rusty wire. There was a big crack in its chest, like it had been hit hard. Ramiro Dominguez, 58 years old, was the oldest worker in the group. He had been in the army. After looking closely, he said right away, "No one buries a mannequin more than 5 feet down in the forest like that, unless they're trying to hide something." Luis grabbed a crowbar and carefully pried open the cracked part of the chest. The piece of plastic broke off and fell to the bottom of the hole. And then, a small bone from a hand rolled out. A real bone, scraped, covered in mud, wrapped in a pink ribbon, almost faded. Arturo turned pale, stepped back, and threw up behind the bulldozer. Ramiro took out his satellite phone and called the police. His voice was slow and clear. "We just dug up something that no one should touch. It's not a mannequin. It's a body." In less than an hour, the area was temporarily blocked off. A forensics team was sent from the Oaxaca police station, along with a refrigerated vehicle to hold samples. Deputy Chief Sofia Morales came to the scene herself. She had done her internship in this same area in 1980, when Elena Suarez went missing. Sofia Morales returned to the forest that she had searched for 5 days straight in the summer of 1980. Back then, she was a police intern, part of the search team for a missing 8-year-old girl. Her name was Elena Suarez. They walked in a line, divided into teams, each person separated by exactly 5 meters, about 16 feet, with sticks in their hands, searching every patch of grass, but no one found anything. This time, Sofia returned with the title of Deputy Chief. She wasn't looking for living people anymore. She crossed the security line, where yellow warning tape had been strung all around the edge of the dark forest. There, forensic specialists were digging up the layer of soil around the area where the plastic figure had been found. In the excavated hole, sunlight filtered through the pine tree canopy. 4 people from the forensics team wore white protective suits. They were removing thick layers of foam and thin wire from the frame of the figure. Sofia stood above, watching every movement carefully. A specialist reported, "All the bones are fixed in the correct position of the human joints. No fragment is out of place. Wrists, ankles, ribs. Everything is inserted into the frame in a very precise way." Sofia took notes. Like someone was reconstructing a complete body. The forensic expert used tweezers to pull out a piece of cotton dress with purple flowers. The fabric was decayed, but the floral pattern was still recognizable. This sample matched the description of the dress Elena was wearing the day she disappeared, according to her parents. Another person pulled out a piece of ribbon wrapped around the hand bone. Under the microscope, the blurry hand embroidery could be seen. Only one character remained. An E. Just one character. The rest is faded. Sophia looked closely. She clearly remembered. Maria Suarez had said that Elena's name was hand-embroidered by her mother on each of her daughter's hair ribbons. The body was placed in a storage bag and moved to a specialized vehicle. The vehicle left the dark forest, heading to the Central Forensic Laboratory in Mexico City, where complete equipment for DNA and bone structure testing was available. Sophia also got in the car, following them. During the more than an hour-and-a-half drive, she didn't say anything. She only looked at the evidence bag containing the piece of fabric and the pink ribbon. At the State Forensic Laboratory in Oaxaca, Sophia met with Dr. Laura Monroy, the laboratory's most senior forensic specialist, with more than 30 years of experience. Dr. Monroy stood up, nodded at Sophia, and immediately started to work. Wearing gloves, she separated each piece of the mannequin. Inside, you could clearly see the sealed epoxy foam frame, which held the bones firmly in place as if they were pieces of a mechanical model. Whoever did this didn't just hide a body, she said. They wanted to create a form, a human figure with real bones. The bone fragments were washed, numbered, and measured. After 48 hours, the results of the DNA comparison were ready. There were no registration codes from 1980 in the CODIS system. But luckily, Mr. Ricardo Suarez had voluntarily donated a blood sample the year his daughter disappeared. That blood sample was carefully stored for 27 years without being destroyed. The result, 100% match, no discrepancies. The body inside the figure was Elena Suarez. In addition to the DNA confirmation, there were other findings. The left arm bone showed signs of having been broken and then healed on its own, which indicated that the girl had lived for a while after being kidnapped. The jawbone was scraped with a slight displacement, which could indicate that she had been gagged with cloth or rope for a long time. There were no internal injuries to the organs. There were no major hormonal fluctuations. The cause of death was not determined, but it was most likely asphyxiation or cardiac arrest. Sophia left the forensic laboratory at dusk. She headed to a place she knew she had to go. The old wooden door opened with a dry creak. Ricardo Suarez was standing in the doorway, his eyes not looking at the caller, nor at the police car parked outside the door. He was just staring at the clear plastic evidence bag that the uniformed woman was holding. Inside the bag, there was a piece of pink ribbon, faded and full of dirt. He said in a low, monotonous voice, "It's Elena, isn't it?" It wasn't a question. It was just a confirmation. As if he had been expecting this for a long time. Deputy Chief Sofia Morales didn't answer. She gently opened the bag, took the ribbon out of the plastic, and placed it on the wooden table next to the door. Inside the house, Maria Suarez remained motionless on the old sofa. She was sewing a children's dress of purple color. Hearing her husband's voice, her hand stopped halfway, the needle still half sewn into the fabric. She didn't look up. She just said softly, "At least, now we know where she is." The wind blew gently through the window. The white curtain moved. After learning that her daughter had been confirmed dead, Maria did not leave the room. She remained bedridden, with a slight fever and difficulty breathing. The town doctor examined her and said that the stress had caused weakness. Ricardo didn't react. He simply put a bowl of oatmeal on the nightstand, sat next to her, in silence. The next morning he went down to the basement. The room was covered in dust, but everything remained intact since 1981. The map of the dark forest, photos of Elena, overlooked witness statements, and a handwritten note by himself. He peeled off each old document and spread them out on the table. Those who had lied. Details that were once considered insignificant. He stuck them all back together. At noon, Sophia returned. Ricardo didn't look up. He just said one sentence. "This time I won't just stand by and watch. I'll go with you." Sofia Morales sat alone in the records room of the Oaxaca police station. In front of her was the box for case 80CDL-017 that had been reopened, covered in dust for more than 2 decades. She took out sheet after sheet, each statement transcript, each black and white photograph. Most were yellowish. Some even had the ink running from rainwater. Among them, there was a statement marked as "No Evidentiary Value," signed by a sergeant on duty in 1980. The declarant was named Pedro Ramirez. The file stated, "Single man, no stable job, with a history of alcoholism." The statement only had 3 lines. "I saw a silver van parked on the edge of the dark forest early in the morning. It didn't have license plates. Someone was sitting inside the vehicle. He didn't get out. I didn't see his face well. I only remember his look. Cold as ice." The file was archived. No one investigated further. But Sofia was different. The next morning, she drove to the outskirts of San Pablo, almost 30 minutes from Ciudad de las Flores. It was a desolate area, with some old mobile homes scattered along the road. Sofia parked in front of a silver Airstream, with the windows sealed with tape and the roof covered in moss. She knocked on the door 3 times. A hoarse voice replied, "Who is it?" Sofia showed her ID when the door opened. The man, thin, almost 70 years old, wearing a tank top, holding a cigarette, and with hair as messy as if he hadn't combed it in a week. "Are you Pedro Ramirez?" "That's me. Is it about the girl from the 80s again?" He wasn't surprised. He didn't even need Sofia to introduce herself more. Sofia was invited in, but she didn't sit down. She took out the recorder, turned it on, and asked, "Did you say you saw a silver GMC Savannah the morning Elena Suarez disappeared?" Pedro nodded. "Yes. I was taking the trash to the old campsite. It was still dawn. And I saw the vehicle parked facing the forest. The engine was still running. The guy in the car didn't get out. He was just smoking and looking in the rearview mirror. Could you see that person's face? Number. But I remember the eyes. Dead fish eyes. White, lifeless." Pedro took a drag of his cigarette, pointing out, "That car was dented on the right side, and the paint on the roof had a layer of old paint exposed. No license plates. I said it all. That year they didn't believe me." Sofia turned off the recorder. She gave him a new statement form to sign again. "I believe you now, Mr. Ramirez." Back at the office, Sofia transferred all the descriptive data to the team that recovers vehicle records on paper, those vehicle records from before 1990, now digitized. After 3 hours, the results were returned. GMC Savannah 1979, plata, registrado a Fernando Méndez. The name Fernando Méndez had never been mentioned in the 1980 disappearance file. Sofia began to check his background. Méndez was born in 1945. Occupation, artist creating mannequins. Worked in a small theater company in Mexico City. The file said, he left the job in 1978 due to an accident on stage. A mechanical model fell and injured a partner. No criminal record. No record after 1979. Sofia investigated further. In 1975, Fernando Méndez had been temporarily hospitalized in the psychiatric unit of Puebla. Reason for hospitalization: conduct disorder with an obsessive tendency for living still lives. The treating physician noted, "The patient often repeats the phrase, 'When they stay still, I see perfection.'" This file was not sent to any legal authority because at that time the systems did not link medical data with criminal records. Sofia returned to the 1988 death report, where Fernando Méndez was supposed to have died in a fire at a wood sculpture workshop near the cloud forest. She called Ricardo. He arrived at the records room in less than 2 hours. Sofia slid the file towards him, tapping her finger on the line that said, "Amalgam filling." Ricardo wasn't surprised. He took out an old photocopy from his pocket with frayed edges and a handwritten note in red ink. "Méndez, tooth number 3, equals extraction June 1979. "When I got this file from the old clinic in 1985, Ricardo said, I already knew that body wasn't him. Sophia asked, "Why didn't you give it to the police?" Ricardo smiled bitterly. "I gave it to them. They told me every father looks for a reason not to accept the death of his daughter. And then they closed the file." Sophia nodded. She took both documents and put them in the new file folder. The note she wrote in the reopened file said, "High probability of faking his death. Mendez could be alive since 1988. Ricardo leaned over the map of the cloud forest, pinned to the board. If he staged the fire scene himself to disappear, then he didn't just run away. He had a plan, and that plan didn't end with Elena. Sofia Morales returned to the forensic records room in Mexico City. She requested to retrieve all the files from the 1988 fire, which was concluded as an accident due to a short circuit, completely burning the wood workshop. The report said, "A completely charred body without the head part. 7 remaining teeth, including tooth number 3, with an amalgam filling used to identify him as Fernando Mendez." Sophia placed 2 dental files side by side, one from 1988, another from 1979. There was only one accurate statement. Mendez had swapped bodies. She hypothesized. Mendez killed another person, put his false teeth on the corpse, and created the fire scene to mislead. He had pretended to be dead. Sophia requested a new analysis of the ash samples saved from the fire. Fortunately, the State Archive still kept some original samples for long-term comparisons. The new analysis, using modern technology, yielded completely different conclusions. The burned body was of a man, about 20 years old, 5 feet 5 inches, 1.67 meters, tall, which did not match Mendez's height, weight, and bone ratio, who at that time was 43 years old and measured 5 feet 7 inches, 1.75 meters. The bone tissue showed no signs of having suffered an injury to the left knee, as Mendez had in his medical history from 1974. The body among the ashes was not Fernando Mendez. Sophia opened the map of the cloud region, an area surrounded by forests with wastelands interspersed with dwellings, many areas without postal addresses. She marked a radius of 12 miles, 20 kilometers, from where the old burned workshop once existed. She sent a request to the Land Management Agency of the state of Oaxaca. Find all properties purchased between 1988 and 2007 around the cloud region, especially transactions made in cash, without a clear social security number, without personal tax records. The data filtered 16 suspicious addresses. Sophia reviewed them one by one. Most were vacant lots, abandoned houses, or real people under the name. Only one case stood out, a small cabin deep in the cloud forest, bought in cash in 1993. The owner was named Carlos Mendoza. No social security number, no tax return, no vehicle registration, no bank transactions, no financial trace. The name was too similar to Fernando Mendez. On the afternoon of June 24th, Sophia drove with another police officer, following the trail of the cloud forest. At the end of the road, they stopped. About 500 feet, 150 meters away, there was a small wooden cabin with a rusty sheet metal roof, surrounded by a wire fence and statues of mannequins about 5 feet, 1.5 meters, tall, scattered like scarecrows. Sophia used her binoculars. Through the lenses, she saw a gray-haired man wearing a shirt, brushing dust off a child-sized mannequin figure. Next to it, under the shade of a tree, there was a wooden table with many model-making materials: foam, copper wire, pliers, cans of paint, and an old ceramic oven. The police officer next to her asked in a low voice, "Do we have a warrant?" Sophia shook her head. "Not yet. But now we know for sure. Mendez is not dead, and he's still sculpting." The gray-haired man appeared every morning behind the wooden cabin in the cloud forest. He wore a shirt, held a horsehair brush, and carefully removed dust from the mannequins that stood motionless in the garden. Some mannequins were as tall as an adult's chest. Others were the size of an 8-year-old child. No one in town knew him. No one called him by his name. The police established a semi-permanent lookout post more than 1,000 feet, 300 meters, from the cabin. Sofia Morales requested the technology team install long-range cameras with night vision capability, pointing at the cabin's backyard and the main room's window. For 3 consecutive days, the cameras recorded. The man only left the cabin every 2 days around 6 a.m. He drove a van without license plates, traveling almost 20 miles to a gas station on the highway to buy food, batteries, gasoline, and canned milk. Everything paid in cash. He had no contact with anyone, no phone, no signals emitted from the cabin. Sofia reviewed the data. In the daytime videos, she noticed that at least 4 different children's mannequins were placed in the backyard, changing positions every day. He's arranging, not exhibiting. On the 4th night, it started to rain. At 1:18 a.m., the infrared camera recorded the man dragging a mannequin frame by hand, taking it to the center of the backyard. He opened the lid of a large metal barrel, which already contained dry firewood. He put the frame in, poured a liquid, and lit the fire. The flames rose. The video lasted exactly 27 minutes until the flames went out. The next morning, Sofia and the forensic team arrived at the cabin. Among the ashes they found a burned mannequin frame with the foam core swollen, charred fragments of fabric, no human bones, no traces of human DNA in the ashes. Mendez had destroyed a sample. It could be a model. It could be a body. No one could be sure. Sofia decided to order a raid. The tactical team broke into the cabin at 5:45 a.m., but there was no one inside anymore. The cabin was silent. On the kitchen table there was still an unfinished bowl of cereal, a spoon leaning in a dish of powdered milk. The fireplace was still warm. A pair of shoes covered in wet mud lay in front of the back door. "He just left, not long ago," commented a policeman. They split up to search. The bedroom only had a single bed, a wooden closet, and an old cassette recorder. The door to the small room at the end of the hallway was locked from the inside. The technical team used a crowbar to force it open. Inside, there was a white room, the walls whitewashed, the ceiling with steel wire hooks hanging, the floor with circular marks as if platforms had been removed. In the corner of the room there was a wooden shelf, full of Polaroid photos of mannequins, numbered from number 1 to number 6. Sofia entered. The light from the flashlight slid across the floor, stopping on a displaced wooden plank. She crouched down, gently lifted it. Under the floor there was a small tunnel, barely big enough for a person to crawl through. Footprints of muddy shoes were clearly imprinted on the wooden beams leading to the tunnel. The policemen turned on their flashlights. The tunnel extended, not knowing where it led. The floor was still wet. The mud footprints had not dried. Sofia stopped, not immediately going down into the tunnel. On the opposite wall, there was a phrase written in charcoal, scribbled as if it had just been hastily traced. "As long as the model remains still, I will exist." Mendez knew they were coming. He had prepared, and still, he escaped. The tunnel was only about 100 feet, 30 meters long, dug meandering through a thick layer of clay. The exit led to a group of rotten trees in a crack in the forest to the west, where the surveillance cameras could not record images. There were no clear footprints apart from the footsteps in the mud. There were no new clues. Mendez had disappeared, as if he had never existed. When the team withdrew from the scene, Sofia and a technician returned to the cabin for a last check. In the drawer of the writing desk, she found an old brown plastic cassette box. A single cassette inside, with a white adhesive tape label, handwritten in red ink. M7, last day. Sofia took the tape to headquarters, converting it to digital format. The technician played it. The sound of the tape was rough, like metal scraping. The first 30 seconds were sounds of rain, then a segment of cutting sound without a clear source. After 2 minutes and 18 seconds, a small trembling whisper appeared, clearly from a child. "The uncle said he would forgive me," if I stayed still. After that, the tape stopped. There were no images. There was no adult voice. Nothing was clear. Sophia presented the recording to the district attorney's office. They refused to accept the case. There was no body. There were no witnesses. There was no DNA. There was not enough basis to file murder charges. At the same time, she received an internal notice. If there were no new developments in 48 hours, the case would be downgraded to investigation of disappearance of unidentified object. There was no federal arrest warrant. There was no state alert. Mendez was still free. That afternoon, Ricardo Suarez went directly to the police station in Ciudad de las Flores, carrying a copy of the 1980 file, his personal notes, and a hand-marked map. He threw the pile of papers on the table in front of Sophia, his voice low but emphasizing each word. You have a mannequin that contained my daughter's body. You have DNA. You have the notebook with Elena's name, with sketches of every human bone. And now, another child's bone is found under the ashes of the cabin. Sophia didn't answer. He looked directly into her eyes, for the first time with a look that contained both anger and despair. I don't understand anymore, Sophia. How many more children have to die, or at least lose their names, for you to reopen the case as it should be? She was going to speak, but he raised a hand to stop her. I don't blame you, but this system has allowed a monster to survive 27 years, and if they're not going to look for him, I will. He turned around and left the room, with the piece of faded pink ribbon still clutched in his shirt pocket. Just before leaving through the door, he stopped. I lost a child. I won't let him do that to anyone else. The door closed behind him. Sophia remained motionless, facing the internal report requesting to close the case if no victim was confirmed. Behind that door, there was a father, and his anger was not for the police, but for the one who had turned pain into inanimate objects. Sophia didn't give up either. She returned to the forensic laboratory in Mexico City the next morning. She requested a new analysis of all the ashes and materials recovered from the barrel. This time, not only foam and fabric, but also microscopic samples. 2 days later, the forensic doctor called her. We just found a small fragment of bone. His voice turned grave. Charred, less than an inch, 2 centimeters long. Almost the size of a pinky finger. It's not from an animal. It's clearly human bone. Sophia squeezed the handset. Can the age be determined? Yes, based on the proportion of cartilage, it's a child under 12 years old. And it's not Elena Suarez. She hung up the phone, thoughtful. That afternoon, Sophia went to Ricardo Suarez's house. He was in the basement, looking at the map of the forests around Ciudad de las Flores, where he had stuck dozens of red pushpins over the past 27 years. It's not my girl, he said, without needing her to explain. I know. Sophia nodded. And I also believe that it could be another victim, a child who was never looked for. Ricardo didn't turn around. He just pointed to a row of notes on the wall. Ciudad de las Flores, Summer Camp, 1984. Cloud Forest, Burning Figures. San Pablo, School Abandonment Report. You're right, Deputy Chief, he said softly. This is no longer the case of a single child. This is a chain of repeated actions, and I won't allow it to be repeated again. They sat together in front of the old table. Sophia spread out the list she had just obtained from the local Department of Education, a list of elementary school students who had dropped out of school unusually between 1975 and 1985. No reason, no transfer. No one confirmed it. Only one line made them both stop. Brenda Ortiz, 5th grade, San Pablo Elementary School, stopped attending in April 1984. There was no grade transfer file. No one picked her up. No one reported her disappearance. Sophia reviewed the old residency records. Ricardo read aloud. Brenda lived with her mother, Clara Ortiz. The house was right on the edge of the dark forest, less than 1.2 miles, 2 kilometers, from where Elena's mannequin was found. The mother died in 1985 from illness. No relatives to inherit, continued Sophia. The father left before. No one confirmed that Brenda disappeared. The girl vanished on paper. Ricardo remained silent for a long while. Then he removed a red pushpin from the map and stuck it back in at the point of the Ortiz house. Just below, he wrote a new line. Her name is Brenda Ortiz. And this is where we start again. She investigated the family record further. Brenda lived with her mother, Mrs. Clara Ortiz, in an old wooden house less than 1.2 miles, 2 kilometers, from the edge of the dark forest. The mother died in 1985 from an illness. There were no relatives to inherit. The father had left before. No one confirmed Brenda's disappearance, and no one reported that the girl was no longer attending class. Sophia was in the old and ruined attic, the light from her flashlight scanning the figure hanging in midair between the wooden beams. The piece of parachute cord was still taut. The back was torn, as if it had been half-mounted and then abandoned. She said softly, "It's not like the other models. This one is incomplete. It doesn't have the foam treatment. It doesn't have the molding frame." Ricardo was at the foot of the stairs looking up. Did he ever leave a model unfinished? Never, Sophia replied. For Mendez, immobility was the ultimate perfection. He didn't keep something half done, unless there was a reason. She leaned in to examine more closely the hairs attached to the figure's head. They were real hairs, long, light brown, unburned, chemically untreated. They both remained silent for a few seconds. Then Ricardo said slowly, maybe he took Brenda home, where her mother lived. But when he started to shape her, he couldn't. Something prevented him from completing this model. Sophia nodded slightly. It could be the time. It could be that her mother returned unexpectedly. Or maybe Brenda herself resisted, ruining his process. For Mendez, a single misstep ruins the entire work. Ricardo climbed 2 rungs of worm-eaten wood, looking at the dusty space above. Or, this is a message. He left it to see if someone would find it. A test. If no one got this far, then no one deserved to understand him. Sophia looked at the figure once more. In the dim light, it looked like a half-made body, like a soul still without a name. He didn't kill to hide. He killed to create. Each complete model is a signature, but this is a mistake. It's something he wanted to forget, but couldn't destroy with his own hands. Sophia returned to the investigation room. She hung the map of Oaxaca on the wall, marking with a circle the points of the Cloud Cabin, the Ortiz house, and the dark forest. Next to it, she wrote on the whiteboard, "If Mendez experimented several times, Brenda is a failed model, and Elena is the first complete model." She called the state police, requesting that they review all cases of children who had dropped out of school for no known reason between 1970 and 1990 throughout Oaxaca. At the same time, she sent a request to the Department of Child Welfare, asking for data from cases removed from the system without a school transfer record. She only said one sentence over the internal phone. "I need the complete list of the children who disappeared, but were never looked for." That night, Sophia added 4 red pushpins to the map in the investigation room. A burned bone, a half-made mannequin, an abandoned house near the dark forest, an unidentified place where Brenda may have been taken. She stared at the map, thinking about a question that had never been written in any report. How many children were never looked for, and how to catch the culprit? He lived without an identity, without a phone, without technology, without leaving digital signals. But Sophia knew for sure, someone like Mendez couldn't stop looking for new models. She and the research team analyzed all of Mendez's movements over the past 20 years. He didn't look for children in crowded places. He didn't use the internet, but he had a habit of choosing points of intersection between nature and abandonment. Forest parks with little security, old summer camps, public lands that were once planned but abandoned. Sofia delimited the area north of Ciudad de las Flores, where there used to be a summer camp in the 80s, currently unoccupied and without an owner. She set up a fake camp, posted notices of Test Summer Camp for Children, distributed brochures in the market, supermarket, and gas stations. It was all a farce. No children actually went there. Only adults, posing as parents, with hidden cameras installed all around the edge of the forest. On the third night after setting up the camp at 1:47 a.m., a motion detection camera installed on a tree branch recorded the first image. A man approximately 5 feet 7 inches, 1.75 meters, tall, wearing a cap, reading glasses, and a dark jacket, crouched behind a large pine tree, observing the camp with binoculars. He didn't enter. He only observed, for over 12 minutes, without moving. Then he retreated. The tracking team found shoe tracks on the wet ground near the stream. A quick comparison with the shoe samples found in the cloud cabin. Total match. The entire police team received an emergency deployment order in the forest. Sofia led the group from the east, following the stream, where there were slippery rocks and tracks of recent water. Sofia led the group from the east, following the stream. It rained softly. The rocks were slippery as oil. The tracks of recent water were still clearly visible on the mossy bank. Not a single bird song. Exactly at 4:12 a.m., Agent Rojas signaled. There was movement ahead. A figure was crawling crouched under the bushes, bordering a small cliff. Sofia signaled to divide the group, but before they could get closer, a figure unexpectedly came out from the opposite direction. Ricardo Suarez. He wasn't carrying any weapons, only a flashlight and a hand-folded map. He had followed his own trail, according to the logic he had recorded for 27 years, based on the map of the places where Mendez had appeared. Sofia tried to stop him, but it was too late. Ricardo broke through the trees, lunging towards the cliff. Mendez slipped and fell face down on the wet rocks. His left leg was bleeding, his pants were torn, and he was still holding a cloth bag against his chest. Ricardo didn't wait. He pounced, pinned Mendez against the ground, immobilized him with his knee, squeezing his muddy wrist. "You have nowhere to hide anymore," he said softly, his voice trembling, but not out of fear. "My daughter, and the other children, are watching you being arrested today." Mendez didn't resist. He remained motionless under the father, without reacting, without uttering a word. Under the mud, his lips tightened, as if he were waiting. The police arrived shortly after. Sofia ordered that he be handcuffed. Mendez didn't resist. In the cloth bag there was a drawing notebook with the worn and soaked leather cover. Inside there were more than 30 sketches, all of children's postures, divided by model number. Meticulous annotations of each line, body proportions, angle of the head, tilt of the shoulders. Model number 8, crossed out in red as a blur. Model number 9, only with the outline of the head. No name, no description, only a form, empty and without a look. Ricardo stood there, looking directly at Mendez, who was kneeling on the ground. No one said anything else. Sofia nodded slightly. "We have him." When Sofia read the arrest warrant, her voice was firm. "Fernando Mendez, you are under arrest on the charge of first-degree murder, an offense related to the death of Elena Suarez and other unidentified victims." Mendez remained still. He didn't look at anyone. He only said, "I was just looking for balance." Sofia approached, stopping a few steps from him. "How long have you been following children?" Mendez tilted his head. His cloudy gaze slid across the policeman and stopped on Ricardo. He said slowly, "Your girl was the almost perfect model. I only adjusted the shoulder bone a little. But then she started trembling. I hate it when they tremble." The air froze in an instant. Ricardo didn't wait any longer. He took a step forward, clenched his fists, and punched Mendez directly in the face. But Sofia stopped him in time. "Stop!" she shouted, pushing Ricardo back. "You can't let him control anything else?" Ricardo gasped, his eyes reddened, his hands still shaking from the anger repressed for so many years. He killed my daughter, and dares to talk about her as if she were an experiment. Sophia didn't answer. She turned to look at Mendez again, the man standing in the middle of the policemen, handcuffed, with blood dripping from his knee, but with his face unchanged, without fear, without remorse, only a slight nod. As if he was the one watching a performance, and the audience was acting in his place. They handcuffed him, but Mendez didn't resist. His face seemed as if this was already in his plan. On the way to headquarters, he remained motionless in the back of the police car. The light from the headlights filtered through the gaps in the trees, illuminating his face, where his gaze remained fixed on the window, not looking at the people, only the shadows of the passing trees. Sophia didn't ask anything else at that time, but she kept the drawing notebook close to her. The paper was yellowed around the edges. Some pages were numbered, others had handwritten annotations in red ink. Slightly tilted posture, without falling, without deviating. Just being still is enough. Back at headquarters, Mendez didn't ask for a lawyer. He didn't ask for water, nor did he ask the reason for his arrest. Only when the police took him down the short corridor to the interrogation room, he turned to Sophia, looking directly at her for the first time. "Is the room white?" Sophia didn't answer. Mendez smiled slightly. "I only make models. I don't hurt anyone. You want to know how I make my models, right?" He sat alone in the chair. He leaned back. He crossed his arms on the table. Then he said, without anyone forcing him, "I don't kill people. I create forms. More perfect. The others don't understand. But you will understand." The press conference was held on Monday afternoon in the auditorium of the Ciudad de las Flores police station. Deputy Chief Sofia Morales took the podium without reading the prepared text. She looked directly at the row of cameras and then said, "We have found direct evidence that Fernando Mendez created at least 7 mannequin figures from the bodies of real children. 2 of them have already been identified, but according to the notebook left by the suspect, there could be up to 9 victims." The sketchbook that Mendez carried with him on the day of his arrest wasn't just drawings. Each page had a section of handwritten notes, concise and specific, height-estimated age notes on posture, balance ability, or inappropriate movements. Some models were only recorded with symbols. Number 3, incomplete. Bent arms, slumped shoulders. 5, incorrect head proportion. Unusable. Only 2 models had real names. Model number 7, Elena. Model number 2, Brenda. Sophia and the investigation team cross-referenced this information with the list of cases of children who had dropped out of school for no known reason. Result: at least 4 disappearances never reported to the police between 1975 and 1985, coinciding with Mendez's area of activity. The police drew up a list of the families affected and sent them individual invitations. The identification of evidence was carried out behind closed doors, with the exclusive presence of legal representatives and the investigation team. On the table in the evidence room were successively displayed a faded pink ribbon, a pair of small sports shoes with worn soles, a lock of hair attached to a mannequin figure with a broken neck. Some people recognized their children's objects immediately. Some sat on the floor with their faces in their hands. Others simply shook their heads and left the room. One mother, Mrs. Lucia, without saying a word, went directly to the glass that separated the room from the evidence room, forcefully hitting her hand against the glass. She pointed to the incomplete mannequin erected in the box and shouted, "This is not my daughter. My daughter is not a statue." The police had to restrain her. Sophia didn't say anything. She only lowered her head. In the cell, Mendez refused to answer any questions about the identity of the remaining models. Agent Rojas asked, "Do you remember any girl named Raquel?" Mendez looked at the table. "I don't remember names. I only remember the forms, when they were still, when they didn't move. At that moment, they were perfect." Sofia returned to her office and printed the Elena Suarez case file, including the DNA analysis results, the ribbon as evidence, the map of the body's discovery, and Mendez's statement. The file was almost 300 pages long. She signed the last page and then knocked on the door of the prosecutor's office. 2 hours later, the Oaxaca State Court agreed to file first-degree murder charges against Fernando Mendez for the victim Elena Suarez. That afternoon, Sofia drove home alone, carrying a copy of the indictment file in a leather briefcase in the passenger seat. It wasn't raining, but the clouds covered the sky. The streetlights blurred through the glass of the car covered with forest dust. She stopped in front of Ricardo Suarez's house. Without needing to knock on the door, he had already opened it. Sofia handed him the file folder. Ricardo looked at the cover. Murder case. Elena Suarez, 1980, 2007. He didn't take it immediately, but asked softly, "Do you think the court will believe that he did it only out of passion for sculpture?" Sofia shook her head. "I don't need them to believe the motive. I need them to see the result." Ricardo took the file folder and then continued. "He will say something in front of the court. He knows it. People like him don't stay silent for long." The next morning, Sofia arrived early at the police station, passing through the evidence room. A mannequin with a broken neck was removed from the shelf, no longer preserved as evidence. But Sofia stopped, looking closely at the nape of the neck where Mendez had cut to insert the foam joint. Not to kill, but to keep it standing, she thought to herself. In the hallway of the Oaxaca District Court headquarters, the clerk placed the trial calendar on the wooden board. The first line had already appeared. State of Oaxaca versus Fernando Mendez crime. First-degree murder. Preliminary hearing. 9 a.m. next Thursday. The Oaxaca District Courtroom opened its doors at 8:50 in the morning. Exactly at 9 o'clock, 2 police officers led Mendez, in a light gray prison uniform, without handcuffs, slow steps, not looking around. He went straight, as if he knew exactly where he should be. The defendant's seat was in the middle of the old brown wooden room, surrounded by people, but he sat as if there was no one there. The prosecutor began his presentation. On the big screen, they showed the map of the excavation of Elena Suarez's body, a photo of the broken mannequin, and the verified evidence, a fragment of light purple flower dress, a pink ribbon embroidered with the letter E, a photo of the hand-drawn model in Mendez's notebook, the cassette tape with Elena's voice. A rough sound resonated from the player. "I'm not a statue. My name is Elena. I want to go home." The entire room fell silent. The plaintiff called Deputy Chief Sofia Morales to testify. She recounted the investigation process, how the body's identity was verified, the procedure for tracking Mendez's cabin, and accurately described how he escaped through the tunnel. She ended her statement with a single sentence. Fernando Mendez not only killed children, he erased their true faces. Then he rebuilt a version that would never move. When it was the turn of the victim's family witnesses, Ricardo Suarez took the stand. He didn't read his statement. He didn't look at Mendez. He only took a faded piece of pink ribbon from his pocket and placed it on the wooden table. "Every morning, she tied it to my girl's hair. Now it's no longer necessary. She has been released." Maria Suarez remained silent throughout the trial. When she was called, she stood up, looked at Mendez from a distance, her eyes without trembling. She said slowly and clearly each word. "You didn't create a figure. You only snatched away the girl I cradled." Representatives from other families were also invited to speak. Some brought old photos of their children. Others brought a lock of hair found. One mother broke down crying in the middle of a sentence saying, "I have nothing to bury, but I want my child to be named for the last time." Mendez didn't answer any questions. He didn't say a last word. He didn't defend himself. He only nodded slightly when the judge ruled life imprisonment without parole. On July 15, 2007, Elena Suarez was buried for the second time, this time under a hand-engraved headstone with her real name, date of birth, and date of death. On the headstone, her parents wrote, Elena Suarez, 1972 to 1980. You were held for too long. Now you are free. That afternoon, at the end of the trial, the backyard of the Ciudad de las Flores funeral home was cleared to temporarily place Elena's headstone. There was no orchestra. There was no hearse. Only an old wooden chair where Maria sat throughout the ceremony with a small blue cotton cushion in her arms, the cushion that was once in Elena's cradle. Ricardo was next to the headstone, holding a small box with some soil from the dark forest where his daughter had disappeared. He didn't read a eulogy. No one said goodbye. But at one point, when the wind blew softly through the row of pine trees on the edge of the cemetery, Maria looked up slightly and whispered, We're not holding you back anymore, Elena. You can go. That night, Sophia returned to her office, where the whiteboard still had the red pushpins marking the locations of the unsolved cases. 7 red pushpins, 3 blue pushpins, 2 pushpins with nothing more than a question. She didn't remove them. She simply used a marker to write a small line at the bottom of the map. If no one looks, then I will look. Until the end. 3 weeks after the trial, the city of Ciudad de las Flores returned to its normal rhythm of life. But the Suarez family did not. Ricardo woke up at 5 in the morning every day. He made coffee, opened the door to the basement, and sat next to the wooden table he had used for 27 years to organize the files. The map of the cloud forest was still there, full of red pushpins and notes. Maria was different. After Elena's funeral, she barely came downstairs. Her daughter's room remained closed, except one morning, when she asked Ricardo to help her find an old sewing needle that had fallen into the room. While searching, Ricardo moved the wooden closet next to the bed a little. Then, he heard a slight jingle, like the sound of something falling from the wall. A false tile was revealed behind a loose wooden panel. He removed it, and inside there was a small tin box, old, tied with a faded ribbon. Ricardo took the box to the basement without saying anything to Maria. Inside there was nothing special. A scribbled drawing with the pencil lines blurred, a shirt button in the shape of a cat, and a piece of paper folded into 4 with a childish letter scribbled, If someone finds this, I'm lost. I'm Elena. I'm trying to go home. Ricardo couldn't utter a word. He handed the piece of paper to Sofia Morales. She read line by line, in silence for a long time. Afterward, Sofia decided to send this piece of paper as the last piece of evidence, to be kept in the official closing archive of Case 80 CDL-017. In the police office of Ciudad de las Flores, Sofia pasted a small piece of paper at the top of the file. The only phrase, handwritten by her, found, but not in time to take her home. 3 months later, Ricardo wrote a letter to the 2 families who had attended the trial, but hadn't received confirmation of the identity of their children's bodies. In the letter, he didn't promise anything. He only wrote, If someone is needed to keep looking, I'm still alive. And I owe my daughter something, not to let anyone fall into silence as she did. In the basement, the map had 2 more red pushpins, not because there were more victims, but because Ricardo was ready to continue this time, not for his daughter, but for other children, whom no one had asked, Where did he go? Surely you have heard of disappearances, but over time the names fade, and someone is erased from the memory of an entire community. If you have read this far, you may also have a question. Why can a child disappear without anyone looking for him, her? And why do some people have to wait 27 years for someone to finally call them by their name? The story of Elena Suarez and the other children has been rewritten based on real cases that occurred in some states of western Mexico from the 70s to the early 2000s. The names of the characters, the places, and the specific details have been modified to protect the identity of the victims and their families. But the essence and the underlying truth remain intact. There were people who did this, and they are still being sought. We tell this story not only to remember a case, but to give voice to those who were forced to remain still. If this story made you stop for a moment, please share it by WhatsApp with a friend. Perhaps they have a fear that they have never expressed, or simply, they need a story to know that they are not alone. We cannot go back in time, but we can light a light in the corners that were once forgotten. Send this story, because perhaps, somewhere, there is still a child waiting to be found.